guys, welcome back to my channel. So I just realized it has been 10 years since I lost 45 pounds. That means it's been 10 years that I've been able to maintain that weight loss and continue to transform my body and really transform my entire life and my lifestyle from the inside out. So I thought it was an appropriate time to sit down with you guys, share a little bit more of my story, and dive a little bit deeper into the things that I, now looking back, have realized have made the biggest impact to allow me to actually create that change and make it a lifestyle versus just a quick weight loss that I gained back years later. It's just wild thinking about the last 10 years. Like, I met Ryan, I got married, I've had a few careers, but I started Love Sweat Fitness, I started my YouTube channel, I now have this beautiful community of hundreds of thousands of women around the world. I have a nutrition line. Like, what is happening? What is life when I look back at that girl that was 45 pounds heavier, struggling to even figure out what to do with herself? Like, it is insane how much has transformed over this last decade. So if you want more of my actual story, like the full weight loss story, make sure you guys check out that video I did. I can't even believe it was 3 years ago. I'll link it here for you guys. That one I kind of give you more of like the full picture of my life, where I was at, everything. But for this video, like I said, I really want to give you guys tangible takeaways that are like something you can actually implement to make change in your life. If you are struggling with weight loss, if you're feeling like food is kind of controlling you, there's so much that I went through. I felt all of those things, and I want to give you ways that you can actually make that change so that this story could be your story. Really fast though, before we get into it, if you guys are not subscribed to my channel yet, hit that subscribe button. I have so many incredible videos sharing my experience, sharing my struggles, my story with you, and tons of tips. So make sure you hit that red button. So for those of you that don't know, I'm gonna give you like the brief version of my story, but again, make sure you go watch that full video. So really fast, like, I struggled with weight most of my life. I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism when I was about 11 or 12. I dealt with such insane symptoms. They spent about 6 months trying to figure out what was going on with me. But that, I think, was really like the catalyst for all of the weight issues. I think I always had felt like, even since 3rd grade, I kind of felt like the chubbier friend and dealt with a lot of those things. But that was kind of the point that I think I started shifting the way I treated my body. Instead of like really focusing on feeling good, I felt like, well, I feel like crap, so I'm gonna treat myself like that. And that, I think, is where things started to go wrong. Fast forward, high school, college, literally did every diet under the sun, extreme fasting diets, crazy restrictive diets, cutting out entire food groups, losing a ton of weight, gaining it back, yo-yoing, cycling through the craziness for years. Graduated college and I was 45 pounds heavier than kind of my normal weight. I was at about 168. I'm only 5'5". Like I say, I'm 5'6", but I stand up really tall, but I'm really only about 5'5". And so that weight on my body was a lot. Like, it was a lot of weight. And I know you might look at that photo and be like, I think you look great. And honestly, like, I appreciate that, but I was in such an unhealthy place in my life. Mentally, physically for sure, emotionally absolutely, but I think the mental and emotional side really like showed itself physically in my body. I was not treating myself well. I was binge eating, binge drinking, throwing up. Like, I was doing a lot of really, really bad things. Like, I just talked to you guys a few weeks ago, oh gosh, it was probably a month or two ago now, in a video sharing a little bit more about how I would throw up. And that was really hard for me to talk about because I had not even told Ryan that at that point. But it was just one of those things. Like, I would be sneaking food from my, like, it was such a twisted thing. I would sneak food from myself because I'd be on these diets where I was restricting so much stuff, and then I'd be like, no one's around, I'm gonna have whatever, like eat an entire bag of Cinnamon Toast Crunch or something. Like, I was sneaking it. Then I'd feel so guilty. And then I would either throw it up, or I would go the opposite and just start eating more junk. So I'm like, well, I already ruined it. And I would go in like to this horrible cycle space. And I wasn't hurting anyone but myself. And it just got really ugly. Also realized, like, I was looking for a lot of validation in places that I had no business looking for that, seeking it outside of myself and really trying to find happiness, find direction, find purpose. And when I didn't feel like I found that, then I would just like fall to food to kind of comfort that pain, I guess, or just to almost even like punish myself more. I think I started really like looking at my life and how I was feeling, how I was treating people, my mood, everything. And I, for the first time, I think really clicked that like I was using food as a weapon. Like, I really was. just to hurt myself mostly. But I would use it when I was angry. I'd use it when I was sad. I'd use it when I was happy. Like, I was using it using it for all these wrong reasons rather than like what it was actually and what food is intended to be used for. And I would go through these cycles and just end up feeling so defeated at the end, so guilty. And I'm like, there's something wrong. Like, something needs to change. This isn't good. I don't feel good when I do this. And I'm so tired of the cycle. Like, it was just constant. And I couldn't control a lot in my life. I couldn't control that I didn't know what I wanted to do for a career. I couldn't control that I didn't feel liked or loved or wanted by men or boyfriends or anything else like that. I couldn't control those things necessarily, but I knew I could control what I was putting in my body. And I knew that that would have an impact on how I felt, but it really kind of started from a place of like just wanting to take back some control. I think that like I wanted so badly to have someone want me and love me and like me and everything just as I was. Like, and I focused so much on my body, not about the rest of me at that time, so much on my body. But I think what I realized was like at some point, like, I don't know how to expect someone else to feel that way about me if I can't even feel that way about me. My hope was that I found someone that felt that way and that I'd magically feel that way too. But like, no, like I had to start with me. And I knew that I wasn't gonna just like flip a switch and all of a sudden be like, I love my overweight body and I love that I'm like doing all these things that are not healthy for me. So I finally realized like, yeah, I need to like accept who I am, where I'm at in this moment. I was at the point where I was like, it wasn't about just this physical body, but I needed to accept my physical body so that I could accept that I needed to make changes and like love myself enough to actually put in the work to do it. It's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it all the time. I tried doing it for years. But when you can get your mind into the right space, it does become much easier because you shift your focus and you shift your why. And when you're able to do that, a whole new world opened up for me. So coming from the history of like dieting, and again, I just really want to focus on the food side of these things because I think that that's like what you guys ask me about the most. So like I did everything. I did them all. And I knew that doing all of that got me to where I was, which was not a good place at all. So I kind of had to realize like everything I thought about dieting, everything I thought about weight loss, all of it had to kind of go out the window. And I needed to change what I was doing to actually make change. First thing I did was I decided I was not doing restrictive dieting. Not at all. Everything I'd done before was throwing stuff out. And I wanted to cut that from my life. So like I was cutting the restriction. It wasn't gonna be about restriction. I wanted to feel good. And I needed to figure out how to feel good. And when I cut carbs from my diet, I didn't feel good. When I cut sugar from my diet, like fully, I didn't feel good. When I cut fats, I didn't feel good. Like all those things did not make me feel good. So I was not gonna do them anymore. I'd been down that road. It's not a good road. I didn't wanna go back there. So like when I started looking at like what to do, it was really hard because all I knew was diet culture. Literally, that's all I knew. Like I had some idea of like what was healthy, but even that really stemmed from that diet culture. So fat-free foods were like, you guys, when you take the fat out of foods, you strip away the flavor and then you end up having to add a bunch of sugar. So like, that's not good for you. All those like healthy frozen meals and stuff are usually loaded with like crazy amounts of sodium. That's not good for you. And plus they taste like garbage. Like I love food. I really love food. And I wanted to find a way to like figure out how I could have it all because I knew that there had to be a world where I didn't have to cut everything out of my life, but I could also still feel better. So I knew I needed to start small. That's kind of where I started because like everything before was so big and so extreme. So I'm like, I wanna start small. I knew I needed some accountability. And I think one thing that like I went into this really trying to wrap my head around was like needing to be proud of the decisions I wanted to make for myself. Because it's not easy to want to order a salad with salmon or chicken or something when your friends are ordering fried chicken and like mashed potatoes or whatever like that, right? It doesn't feel good at first. It's hard. And I think for me, I made a whole video about this. If you guys haven't seen it, I'll link it for you as well. So like watch that. But like I went through a lot of challenges during this time with friends and a lot of judgment. So whether it's your friends or your family that are making you feel like you're crazy for wanting to make healthy choices or healthy changes. Like, that's not okay at all. And so I would go out with people and they're like, oh, you look great. You don't need to do that. Or, oh, like, you don't need to spend time to work out. Come out with us. Or like, why don't you want to go out drinking? All that stuff would happen. And I finally was like, no, like, I am happy that I am doing this. I am happy that I'm making changes that are bettering me. And we should all be proud and be happy that you're making those. It is your life. And then the last thing was really like kind of along the same lines, but like being open to trying new things. I had a lot of habits that I really loved. Like, I would drink bottles of wine. I would eat tons of mac and cheese. I would eat cheese boards before dinner every night. Like, those were kind of some of those bad habits that I'd built up over a lot of time, and really recognizing like, this is not gonna happen overnight. I'm not Amazon Prime. I can't flip a switch and make it happen. So I had to realize that I was gonna need to give myself a little grace. I was gonna need to be open to trying new things, and realize that it might suck a little bit at times. And I think that we want everything to be easy. And it's just not always. Like, but if it's worth it to you, like, then it's gonna be okay, and you're gonna get through that little bit of time of discomfort. And I want to give you guys kind of what I did to help make those steps to get through that discomfort and really create change that lasted now 10 freaking years, which is so crazy. For me, this whole journey when it started was not about the scale. It was not about my weight. It was not about what size I was gonna be anymore. Like, I needed to get healthy and I needed to feel better. So one of the first things I did was throw away the scale. We had one at my parents' house, and like, my mom only weighed herself like ever so often, but I was weighing myself all the time, and it was unhealthy because our weight can fluctuate so much. I now know like the weight only gives you this much of the picture of what's going on in your body, right? So I weighed myself at the starting point just to like have kind of some knowledge of where I was at, and then I just got rid of it and no more. That was a hard thing to do, but it was super powerful because I think that was my first step in saying like, I'm in control. I'm making this choice for myself, and I'm doing things differently. So the second thing I did was I stopped counting calories. I had lived by my little calorie sheet and counting points, and I don't even think counting macros was a thing at the time, but like, same, whatever. I obsessed about it. It made me crazy. That had been the world I had lived in with all of those diets I was doing for so long. So again, in like the spirit of doing things differently, I was like, I'm not counting calories. And I know that like someone's gonna come at me for this. They did on TikTok and everywhere else when I talked about it, but like, if you're trying to lose weight, please stop counting calories. Yes, calorie deficit is scientifically the only way that you will lose fat. It is. But counting calories can also be so detrimental because it can make you reliant on obsessing about exactly every little thing you're putting in your body. It can also create really unhealthy habits of this idea of calories in, calories out. If it fits your macros, where literally you could eat garbage. It can go a lot of ways, and it can go a lot of ways really, really bad. So I had to stop counting calories because I knew that that wasn't going to be something that would be maintainable for me. And I really just had to start looking at food differently and realizing that while I wanted to enjoy food, it had a greater purpose. It wasn't just like, oh, because I love chocolate cake, I'm gonna eat chocolate cake. Like, it had a purpose. It was to fuel my body, to allow my body to function the way that God intended it to work, and like to feel good and be energized and have all of these things in my day that I was lacking. Like, food could provide that for me, and I kind of had to shift how I looked at it in order to almost have more of a respect for it, and more of a respect for myself, like, at the same time. So what I started to do was really try to focus more on now, like, what we call intuitive eating. It wasn't a thing then. I don't think it really was like talked about or had a name, but also I wasn't in this world, so I don't know, maybe it did. But I think one thing that for you guys, like now for me looking back at the last 10 years, I think a lot of people, you know, talk about intuitive eating and are like, yeah, it's so great. Like, you feel it, and like if something sounds good, you just eat it, and you know, whatever. But like, that can only work if you actually have like the knowledge of like how to eat intuitively for your body. So I really needed this like learned intuitive eating. So where I started was by adding things to my plate. So again, I wasn't gonna restrict anything. I wasn't gonna stop having wine if I wanted it. I was gonna stop having carbs, like that kind of stuff. But I did start looking more at like what I was eating, trying to eat more whole foods, but really trying to add to my plate, because what that allowed me to do was focus on all the things I could have, obviously I could have anything, but all the things that like were good for me and like filling my plate up, eating more food even, rather than focusing on the restrictive things. And our taste buds legitimately change. So again, my taste buds for so long were like sugar, oil, blah, like all this stuff, because that's what they were getting all the time. But as you start to make those shifts, as you're changing what you're eating, your tastes actually change, your cravings actually change. That's where you can start to build that as a habit and like really start to see the longevity and the lifestyle where it's not a struggle anymore. Like, yeah, the first couple weeks you're like, ooh, like I'm at a restaurant and I see like the mac and cheese, but I know I should probably have like a salad with chicken, or like a chicken breast with vegetables, or salmon, you know, whatever, a healthier option. And that's like hard. But like those first couple weeks, I'm like, no, I'm making this decision because I know I'll feel better. I started realizing like, oh, when I eat these things, I feel good. I feel like I have energy. I'm doing da-da. And when I have these other things, it was really delicious, but like, I don't feel so good and I don't like that feeling and I don't want to feel like bloated and cramping and whatever. So it actually allows you to step back, because when you have something so much, your body kind of just gets used to it, and you like either get used to the pain and discomfort, or eventually maybe after years it stops because your body's like, fine, like I surrender. But when you start switching it, you really notice it. And for me, that was such a light bulb moment, because I'm like, oh yeah, I can actually feel the impact the food has on me, versus just like, oh, I know this is what I'm supposed to be eating, versus this other thing. I'm like, oh, no. I wanted to feel good. I feel good here. I don't feel good there. And it starts making those decisions a lot easier. So for me, that was adding like a lot of veggies, a lot of like protein, especially protein. I feel like that helps so much, especially like curbing cravings and everything. And then like now, you guys, like the whole reason I wrote my meal plans and my Gillis nutrition guide were to really help give you the tools to like do all of these things in a healthy way that actually makes sense. Like within the guides, we write all the swaps in there. Like there's everything to really help guide you to make it your own, to make it a lifestyle change and not some diet. I don't put the calories in there because I don't want you stressing about it. I really want to help teach you that intuitive eating and give you that resource. This community is such a beautiful thing. Like, I can't even imagine where I would have been had I had a community like Team LSF when I started my journey. Having that support, like a support system, especially like if you're at home and you're like, I'm trying to make these changes, but I have a family or a husband or someone else that's like not on board. They like don't care. They're not on the same page right now. That's really, really hard. I get that. It was not easy to do on my own with no information and trying to navigate that all. But like, I did it. I figured it out. Now I get to share with you guys. And that freaking makes me so happy. Like that, if I can help one other girl not have to go through all of that, oh shoot, and not have to have that battle and like feeling just completely helpless, that makes me so happy. And so that I get to help so many of you, like, is beyond my wildest dreams. Like, I can't even believe that girl is me. Like, I'm that same girl. It's just so insane to see what can happen in your life. In 10 years, it feels like a really, really, really long time, but also like a blink. And it's just so incredible. But if you guys like this video, if you found it helpful, if you related to it, please like, share, comment down below. It means so much to me. It really helps me know like what to continue to make for you. So if you have questions, if you want to know more details about anything I said or something I didn't say that you like have questions about, because there's just so much to unpack, and trying to fit it into one video is really, really hard. So comment down below, ask me anything down there. I will answer your questions in the comments, but also I'll probably just make another video answering a ton of them too, because I'm sure there's gonna be a lot. I love you guys so much. Thank you for just loving and supporting me and my channel and allowing me to share my story with you and hopefully help you in even a tiny, tiny little way. It means everything to me. So I love you guys so much. I'll see you soon. Bye.